What's up, you sick mother bluffers? Welcome back to the channel. In this one, I play a cash game session at Deuce's. Let's get into it. In this first hand, we are jumping straight into a double board 5-card PLO bomb pot. 5 of us see a flop of 4 Jack Ace on top and Jack 5-9 on bottom. I'm in the big blind and I look down at King 10 9-9-3. I got a gut shot on top, a queen would give me the nut straight, and I flop middle set on bottom. Small blind checks to me, I bet 20, and 3 players make the call. 4 ways to the turn, which comes a queen on top and the 8 of diamonds on bottom. I make the nut straight on top. I add the second nut flush draw to my set of 9s on bottom. Small blind checks for a second time and I bet 75 bucks. Under the gun calls, and then all hell breaks loose as the button raises to 200 and the small blind snap calls for 155. I call for 172 total, and so we go 3 ways to the river. I need a clean card on top, and I wouldn't mind the board pairing on bottom or a diamond. The river comes a clean deuce of clubs on top and a king of spades on bottom. The button shows queen 10 for the nut straight on bottom, good for 1/2 of the pot. And the small blind shows king 10 for the same straight as mine on top, so we're going to chop the other half of the pot. I get quartered. Awesome. In this one, I pick up pocket kings in middle position. There's a straddle to 5 from under the gun. I bump it up to 20. Big blind calls, and under the gun straddle folds. We go heads up to a flop of 6, 4, 7, 2 clubs. Big blind checks to me. I have about 80 behind, so my plan is to get it all in either here or on the turn. I c-bet for 25 and the big blind calls. The turn is the 10 of hearts and the big blind checks again. Sticking with the plan, I shove my last 54 and the big blind snap calls. We go to the river, which comes the deuce of hearts, putting a 3rd heart on the board, and the big blind shows 6-9 of hearts for a rivered flush. Forget about getting wine and dine, I get straight up 69. Nice hand, sir. Here we're playing a $5 Drawmaha bomb pot. We go 6 ways to a flop of 8 king 8 2 diamonds, and I look down at Jack 10 9-8-5 from the cutoff. I've got 4 to a straight in my hand and trip 8s with a jack kicker on the board. Action checks to me. I kinda wanna see where I'm at, so fire a bet of 20. The button's like, oh, I'll tell you where you're at, and raises to 60. Rest of the table folds, and I make a questionable call. We go heads up to draw time. I'm going to get rid of the 5 and hold on to my straight draw, and I get dealt a queen. Let's go. I make the straight. The turn comes the deuce of spades, and with the straight in my hand, I'm just going to rip it in here. The button pretty quickly calls, so we go to the river, which comes the 9 of diamonds, giving me a boat, 8s full of 9s. Did I just cooler my opponent for a scoop? I show my hand, and the straight is going to win half the pot. My opponent tables 2 kings for the flop full house, kings full of 8s. We're going to chop this one. In this one, I look down at ace jack from under the gun. I open up the action to 15. The hijack raises all in for 18. Cutoff makes the call, and I call as well. Going 3 ways, but heads up for the side pot to a flop of deuce 10 4 2 hearts. I don't really have much except for 2 overs. I check, cutoff checks back. Turn brings the king of diamonds, improving me to a gut shot straight draw. I check to the cutoff, who fires for 10 bucks. I'm getting the right price to make the call. The river comes the queen of hearts, putting a potential flush on the board, but also gives me the nut straight. I suppose I didn't call the turn to hit the river and check. I bet 30, and the cutoff is going to make the fold. I'm going to showdown versus the all-in player who tables pocket queens for a rivered set, but it's no good. I take this pot down. Here we're playing another $5 Drawmaha bomb pot. I look down at king 9-7-6 double suited in the small blind, and the flop comes 7-4 king 2 clubs. I flop top set. I bet 20. The big blind and under the gun make the call. We go 3 ways to draw time. Since I didn't pick up any flush draws on the flop, I'm going to hold on to my kings and draw 3. I'll have to keep an eye on the big blind, who only draws 1. The turn comes the 9 of diamonds, and I get dealt ace jack jack, so I improve to 2 pair kings and jacks with an ace kicker. With the nuts on board and a decent hand down, I bet 60. Big blind folds, but under the gun sticks around to the river, which comes the queen of spades. This is a little bit of a tricky spot because jack 10 makes the straight on the board now, but I've got 2 jacks in my hand, so it's improbable but not impossible that my opponent has the straight. I'd really hate to fire a bet only to have them repot it in my face. My biggest concern is that they only drew 1 card. They could have a hand like trips, a straight, or a flush down, although they probably would have raised with a hand like that on the turn. In the end, I decided I'd much rather check call a bet than bet call a shove, so I check, my opponent checks back and they show a whole lot of nothing, so looks like I didn't miss much value by checking. I'm going to scoop this one. In this one, I kill pocket kings on the button, the hijack and cutoff are going to limp. I bump it up to 10, which is way too small. I'm happy to report that I've adjusted my raise sizes in my most recent games. The big blind and 2 original limpers are going to make the call, so we go 4 ways to a flop of 6, queen, 8, 2 diamonds. Action checks to me and I c-bet for 30. Big blind makes the call, the hijack, and cutoff fold. Heads up to the turn, which comes to 10 of hearts. Big blind checks, I bet 80, and once again, they call. Not feeling overly confident by my hand as we go to the river, which comes to jack of spades, putting a 4-liner to a straight. I'm not really sure what hands containing a 9 my opponent would call 2 streets with, except for maybe 7-9, 10-9, or ace-9 of diamonds. In any case, I'm not sure I can get a 3rd street of value, but the big blind makes things pretty simple for me, as they bet 25 bucks, less than 10% the size of the pot. I don't really see the point in raising here and turning my kings into a bluff, although as the preflop raiser I could represent ace-king, especially when I have 2 kings in my hand. Other than that, I'm not sure I can get a better hand to fold, especially not against this player who I've seen make some pretty sticky calls. I'm a little bit frustrated at how this hand played out, so I make the side call. The big blind shows 6-8 of spades for a flopped 2 pair. Nice hand, sir. Last hand of the vlog. In this one, we're playing a double board 5-card PLO bomb pot. 7 of us see a flop of 9 king 4 on top and 5 deuce king, 2 clubs on bottom. I'm in the big blind with jack 9 7 5 5, flopping middle pair on top and a set of 5s on bottom. I make a big mistake here and I check. I think this is a pretty clear bet opportunity when I only lose to a set of kings on bottom and there's a king on top. And there's not a lot of draws on top either, except for maybe some gutshot straight draws. Anyway, I check and action checks around. The turn comes a 3 on top and a 6 on bottom. Probably realizing that my flop check was terrible, I now decide to bet 20. Not really sure how I feel about this bet either, because I now lose to a set of 6s and 3-4 makes a straight, but there's already a 3 and a 4 accounted for on top. My bet gets called by the middle position player, the cutoff, and the small blind. We go 4 ways to the river, which comes a 9 on top and a 10 of clubs on bottom. I improve to trip 9s on top, and I get somewhat of an upgrade to a jack high flush on bottom. I say somewhat because with 4 players going to the river, it's almost certain one of my opponents had the nut flush draw. Anyway, action checks around, so we go to showdown, and surprisingly, it looks like I might scoop as my trip 9s are good on top, until the middle position player slow rolls the nut flush on bottom, and so we're going to chop. Not sure why they didn't bet with the nut flush, just a weird hand overall. That's it for now. If you enjoyed this video, you know what to do. Smash that thumbs up button. Drop me a comment, even something like cool video or don't quit your day job. It goes a long way towards supporting the channel and getting my videos to more poker enthusiasts like yourself. If you want to see more of my content, don't hesitate to subscribe and hit the notification bell. Thank you so much for watching. Good luck at the tables, and I'll catch you in the next one.